Hi, my name is Sherry Wistrom, and I am the owner of Nature's Gallery Studio. Right now I am at Maltworks in Racine, Wisconsin. Previously I had a studio in Kenosha. Loved it there, but things went wrong with the landlord, and so I'm up here in Maltworks now. My journey started years ago when I was a little kid, and I loved art. I absolutely thought that this was going to be my life. So when it came time for me to go off to school, I went and told my father, who was a wonderful man, but with a temper. And I went and I told him, "Dad, I'm going to art school." And when he could finally talk again, as his eyes were bulging out of his head and he was purple, and he said, "All artists are bums, and no daughter of mine is going to be a bum." And so I dutifully went off to be an RN. Wonderful, wonderful profession. Enjoyed a lot of things about it. Married a guy in the military. We spent 30 years traveling around, and because we moved every 2 years, being a nurse wasn't exactly an optimal endeavor, because there were difficulties getting jobs. By the time I finally got one, we were moving again. And so each place we went, I would find somebody who did something wonderful in art. I would do a little here, a little there, something completely different. Never actually had a trend going on until my husband retired and we moved here. His last assignment was down in Illinois. And so I started doing my artwork around my nursing. I think that my first real passion came when I was doing silk painting, and you would go ahead and load your brush with the dye, and you would run it across the fabric, and the fabric would just drink in this dye, and it would just spread, and it was magical, and it was wonderful. And so that got me started using silks. A few years later, I started implementing the use of wool as well. The wool is fantastic in that I think there's about 140 some varieties of wool. Not all of them can be felted, but the kind I use, merino, mostly, it has little barbs along each shaft. Those little barbs then go ahead and become really, really friendly in a community. You shock that wool together and it becomes a fabric. I use it by putting it through the silk to become a new kind of fabric, or I just go ahead and use the wool itself. I also use botanicals, using leaves, flowers that I find that have chemicals in them, and I print that on my silk. I sew up my own clothing and then do the botanicals on them, and also make all kinds of different and interesting things. As you look around my studio, you will see that those years of trying different things at different times makes me just a little eclectic, I guess is a good word for it, in that my interests don't lie in just one vein. I love to expand out. I do journals, I do clothing, I do silly things like the fish. I'm an eclectic sort of gal. The name of my shop, Nature's Gallery, really kind of says it all for me, in that I find all things in nature to be so interesting and wonderful. And the things that Mother Nature gifts to us, the silk, the wool, the botanicals, all of the things in nature, and they can all come together and be used together to make something exquisite and beautiful. I think the message that I have is, as you can look at me, you can tell that I am no longer a young woman. And I had to wait a long time in order to be able to finally do something that I had longed to do for a very long time. And if you are an individual who has a dream, don't give up, because it's never too late.